Hello, this is Dr. Lin. Here is the explanation of my Anal Breathing Qi-gong. I have developed, practiced, and mastered this sexual Qi-gong since 1974, and I published it in 1997. My intention is to help you live longer, love longer, and last longer. So, enjoy it. Thank you.
Explanation of Dr. Lin's Anal Breathing Qi-gong. It starts from your mind exerting a somatic motor nervous action, as shown in green arrow, from the cerebral control center, while you start to inhale. The somatic nervous action is conscious and mind-driven. The Anal Breathing Qi-gong promotes qi circulation in the following sequences. 1. Chest inhaling. Expand the thoracic cavity with the conscious, deep inhaling, somatic nervous action to trigger the vagus sensory response, as shown in brown arrow, which is unconscious. 2. Abdominal inhaling. Next, move the somatic nervous action down by applying expansion pressure down to the abdominal cavity to trigger the enteric nervous system, the so-called second brain, which, in turn, relay the response signal via the vagus nerve to the central dopamine-hypothalamus-pituitary axis. 3. Tantien, or pelvic, inhaling. Then, exert a light pressure against the bladder and expand the pelvic cavity. Perform periodical inhaling and pressurizing the bladder while contracting the gluteal muscles against the tailbone with somatic nerves from L1-L5 and SLS4 lumbosacral plexus. This action will stimulate the pelvic organs to generate the reactive vagus signal, as shown in brown arrow, and spinal, parasympathetic S2-S4 sensory nervous signal, as shown in purple arrow, and send the unconscious nervous reactions to the medulla oblongata and then the hypothalamus-pituitary axis to stimulate the dopaminergic, serotoninergic, endorphinergic, glutamatergic and GABAergic nervous system. In response to the vagus nervous stimulation, the hypothalamus-pituitary axis and the vagus reflex arc will send the vagus motor signals to the stimulated and associated organs to modulate the affected visceral organs' function for good. Both the vagus and somatic nervous afferent flows likely perform a semi-simultaneous stimulation, or with a second delay at most, on the same visceral organs, directly and indirectly. On the other hand, the unconscious parasympathetic nervous sensory flow enters the tailbone S2-S4 and travel along the spine cord to the hypothalamus, while the vagus nerve take a direct path outside the spine to the medulla oblongata of the brainstem. The parasympathetic nervous flow is split into two pathways. 1 reaches the hypothalamus-pituitary axis along the spine to the hypothalamic autonomic control center. And 2. The other is synaptically coupled to the somatic and parasympathetic motor nerves back to the stimulated organs or affected organs and dermidums in the autonomic reflex arc in S2-S4. There is a reactive, somatic sensory nervous signal, conscious nervous flow, that feedbacks to the thalamus and then to the cerebral sensory division along the spine, so that you can feel the qi/heat energy flow generated in the tailbone muscle groups. The classical Taoism Qigong practitioners assume the sensible qi/heat energy flow is the energy traveling along the governing vessel, while the somatic nervous action, sensible and conscious, is the energy along the conception vessel. That is, you move your mind, the somatic nervous action with inhaling, down to the pelvic cavity, passing the acupuncture point CV1 to the GV1, where the tailbone muscular action triggers the testosterone DHT conversion with the liver cytochrome P450 enzyme 5-alpha reductase, resulting in energy heat. They called it qi. That flows into the governing vessel, the spine, back toward the cerebral control center. This is known as microcosmic orbit qi circulation. The real bioelectric action, in fact, is through the vagus and parasympathetic nervous stimulation and action, the unconscious sensory and motoring nervous energy on the dopamine-hypothalamus-pituitary axis. This is what the Dr. Lin's Anal Breathing Qi-gong does.